This season's first edition of the 2006 Stanley Cup Final Rematch goes the Oilers' way. We'll talk about that and much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers.
You're Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Oilers podcast. I'm your host and former Oilers game day producer, Brett Holden. As mentioned on today's episode, the Edmonton Oilers won the first edition of this season's 2006 Stanley Cup Finals Rematch as the Oilers take a 6-4 victory at home against the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll talk about that in just a second, but also on today's episode, is there a problem with the Oilers' power play? We'll talk about that a little later on, but also on today's episode, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the victory of the Edmonton Oilers over the Carolina Hurricanes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you find your podcast. Plus, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And where we are going to start off today is where the Edmonton Oilers left off last night as they win 6-4 against the Carolina Hurricanes. A massive win for the Edmonton Oilers as they improve to 2-2 on the season. A win that the Edmonton Oilers needed, a game that the Edmonton Oilers needed in general, and a lot of good to come out of this game. A lot of maybe not questions answered, but a lot of really good things to work on. You're not going to have any answers to questions in the fourth game of the season, but the Edmonton Oilers, especially after the last game, trending in the right direction. The Edmonton Oilers had a couple of players scoring 4 points last night, that being from Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, both finishing the game with a goal and 3 assists. Now, the interesting thing for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, all 3 assists came on special teams. 2 of them on the power play, 1 on shorthanded on the penalty kill on Ryan McLeod's second goal of the season. Ryan McLeod has really been starting off well for the Edmonton Oilers this year. A tough penalty in that game. I was not a big fan of the call, but did get the penalty. It was a tough one because it did end up going against the Edmonton Oilers, and the Carolina Hurricanes did go on to score on that power play, but the story of the game, the Edmonton Oilers actually score the first goal of the game. Weird. And the Edmonton Oilers have the best winning percentage of any team in the league since 2021 when they score the first goal. If only the Edmonton Oilers would score more goals first. Score the first goal more. There we go. Those are the words I'm looking for. If the Edmonton Oilers score the first goal, they're going to win the game. More often than not. And that's exactly what happened with the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Now, the other story of the game kind of for both teams was special teams in general. Both teams going 2 for 5 on the power play. 5 total power plays for each team, 10 in total in the game. A game that was played very much, obviously, on the special teams, but both teams scored 2 goals on special teams, and the Edmonton Oilers scored a shorthanded goal. 5 of the game's 10 goals came on special teams. Half of the game was decided on special teams. Kind of an up and down game for the officials, I would say. I don't want to say in one way or the other that it affected the game. It affected certain outcomes. There were some impacts on the game from certain calls. I think there was a bad call on Brady Shea in that second period on the cross check. Didn't think that was a very good call. I believe the Edmonton Oilers would go on to score on that power play as well. The Evander Kane penalty in the third period as well, as Connor McDavid is entering the zone. I believe that was with about 5 minutes left. Wasn't a big fan of that call either. It takes the game out of the player's hands. But either way, it went even both sides realistically, so you can't really complain, but would have liked to see, let the boys play. It's early in the season, but I do think that the refs did let them play. I'm giving the refs too much of this game here. As it was a fantastic game for both teams. Andrei Svechnikov getting 3 of the Carolina Hurricanes 4 goals last night. His first career hat trick, and I won't lie, 2 of those goals were just absolute snipes. In fact, you could probably put 3 in there. But Jack Campbell didn't really have a lot of a chance on those 2. The third and fourth goal, a little wishy-washy. But those first and second goals from Andrei Svechnikov were fantastic. Jack Campbell coming out of that game with 36 saves, a big bounce back game for him as he faced 40 shots in the game, as mentioned as well. I mean, he had 5 power plays that he had to fend away, and he did just that. In fact, that shorthanded effort by him late in the second period was just probably saved the game for the Edmonton Oilers. He was all over the place in the crease, making save after save after save, and really got the crowd back into that game. Not saying the crowd wasn't out of the game at any point, but he really, really, really saved that game for the Edmonton Oilers and made the saves when he needed to. That's what you need from your goaltender. Your goaltender's not gonna save everything. So the most you can ask for is making the saves that he needs to. And that's what Jack Campbell did last night. A couple of extra notes from the Edmonton Oilers in general, but from that game. Ryan Murray was near invisible last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. There wasn't much going really for Murray. It wasn't a fantastic game for him in general, but it hasn't been great since his first game of the season. With that being said, his D partner, Evan Bouchard as well, he's got to shoot the puck more. I'm not sure who has gotten into his head, but he has become very tentative this season. This was a guy who is supposed to be, at some point, the Edmonton Oilers point guy on the power play, and yet there's been no reason for him to be that yet. Tyson Barrie getting an assist on the power play goal from Zach Hyman today. There's no reason for Bouchard to get in that spot right now. He's not overplaying or outplaying Tyson Barrie. And that's kind of on him. There's nobody else right now who can or should really be pushing Evan Bouchard to be a better defenseman, and not even be a better defenseman, because I think he made a lot of very solid plays, especially in his own end last night, but he's just got to shoot the puck more. Where's the confidence in this high-end draft pick for the Edmonton Oilers, especially from last year? Evan Bouchard's got to be better with the puck. Cody Ceci needs more attention as well. I mean, this guy is all over the place. A tough giveaway late in the game, but Jack Campbell bailed him out there for a giveaway from the blue line, came in on the breakaway, but a big save from Campbell. Other than that, Cody Ceci just solid in all ends. I really like how much he jumps into the play. He adds another aspect to the Edmonton Oilers counterattack and attack in general when he's able to get down low, and he's a big body. He's difficult to try and get out of the lane. So Cody Cody Ceci has really been one of the more solid defensemen for the Edmonton Oilers recently. Speaking of Oilers defensemen, as we've gone through 3 of them already, a 4th one that I'm going to mention as well. Markus Niemelainen was near invisible as well, like a noticeably quiet game for him. He got caught in the second goal on Svechnikov's 3rd goal of the game. He just got caught in the I don't even know where he was really. Actually, it was Svechnikov's 2nd goal of the game. Sorry, he had a couple of them. But he just got caught in no man's land. Tried to throw a hit, realized he couldn't. The puck got past him, and it was in the back of the Oilers' net. I don't think he saw a lot of the ice, honestly, after that play. A lot of the game down the stretch had Brett Kulak, Darnell Nurse, Cody Ceci, and Tyson Barrie, and Evan Bouchard. Didn't see a lot of Ryan Murray. Didn't see a lot of Markus Niemelainen. Bad second period from the Oilers as well. They need to fix up that second period. And the Foegele-McLeod-Puljujarvi line was the best line for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Always generating something in the offensive zone, breaking up the play and the cycle in the defensive zone, and really keeping that energy up for when Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's lines are going to hop over that boards and really bring something there. So, and again, obviously Ryan McLeod with the goal, Puljujarvi and Foegele both could have had 1 or 2 in that game as well. Very good game all around from the Edmonton Oilers. But I have some things to pick from the power play in that 6-4 win. We will talk about the Edmonton Oilers power play in just a second. But first, I want to tell you about our partners over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth analysis on every game, all at BetOnline. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, NBA, as already mentioned. By the way, my Clippers getting a big win against the Lakers. Not like you care, but still, I still threw a couple on the Clippers because the Clippers run LA. Obviously, NHL is also on BetOnline, MMA, UFC, boxing, golf, esports. They got it all at BetOnline. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Alrighty, moving on to the Edmonton Oilers power play. As I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to say there's something going on with the Edmonton Oilers power play. I don't think that's the case, especially when you have Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and take your pick of Evander Kane, Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard, and Tyson Barrie, who are all going to be on that first unit. Then you take the residuals, put them on the second pairing or second unit, and have them with Ryan McLeod. Oops, sorry. Pretty good one. Oh, yeah, and Kyler Yamamoto and Jesse Puljujarvi can also be tossed in there. But either way, the Edmonton Oilers on paper have a very good power play. However, the Edmonton Oilers pulled the no-fur against the Buffalo Sabres. They did have a very good power play in the first game of the season. But other than that, it has been not up to par. The Edmonton Oilers went 2 for 5 on the power play last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. Not bad on paper, but it wasn't great. The Edmonton Oilers never really had anything really going when it came to the power play. The 2 goals on the power play, the first one from Zach Hyman was tipped from a point shot from Tyson Barrie. found its way through, found its way into the net, 1-0 Oilers. That's a big goal, and that's what your power play is there for. But that came off of not necessarily a scramble, but it was far from the Edmonton Oilers' developed and organized power play that they normally have. Same thing as it comes to the Edmonton Oilers' 5th goal of the game and their 2nd power play goal of the game on Leon Draisaitl's game winner. All four. I was honestly astonished when I saw all 4 of those Carolina Hurricanes penalty killers on that board battle. And Leon Draisaitl and Frederik Andersen were sitting in front of the crease having a little tea party. I think they were playing chess. Hopefully, neither of them are cheaters. But Leon Draisaitl was just left wide open in front of the net. Frederik Andersen could have turned around and watched the play from the reflection of the boards behind him. He would have had zero, the exact same chance as he would have had facing Leon Draisaitl. Those were not from the organized and playbook of the Edmonton Oilers power play. The Edmonton Oilers are having serious issues trying to set anything up, first of all, on the power play, in the offensive zone, but also getting real opportunities, getting real shots. All of their shots recently have really been shots from the outside. Take a look at the Zach Hyman goal. That was a tipped goal from inside the square that they're giving the power play from an outside shot from Tyson Barrie. Look at the game against the Buffalo Sabres. Their defensive organization on that penalty kill was elite. There was nothing getting through the Buffalo Sabres on that penalty kill. And you take a look, and they kept the Edmonton Oilers power play at an over. They went 0%. 0. Near the same for the Edmonton Oilers against the Carolina Hurricanes. The organization, as mentioned, just isn't there. The Edmonton Oilers started off the game with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman, and Tyson Barrie. And then with 5 minutes and 51 seconds to go in the third, the Edmonton Oilers came out with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Evander Kane, and Evan Bouchard. Well, Evander Kane would go and take a penalty to negate that power play with a 5-on, or to make it 4-on-4, And so much for that power play. Was it a little bit of a ticky-tack call? Sure. I wasn't a big fan of it either. But you got to keep yourself out of those situations, especially if you want to stay on that power play. And that penalty came after the Carolina Hurricanes cleared the zone again, and the Edmonton Oilers were trying to make another zone entry, which hasn't really been a strength of the Edmonton Oilers either. Their zone entry is obviously going to be dropping it back to McDavid, and either McDavid's going to power it into the zone with his speed and skill, or he's going to dump it in, and Leon Draisaitl or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins are going to be the first ones to the puck, and they're going to operate from there. But that hasn't been there. Either Connor McDavid gets it into the zone and the Edmonton Oilers are too slow behind him to get into position and they end up stripping the puck and the puck goes the other way, or the Edmonton Oilers go and dump it in and they're too slow to get into the zone and the penalty killers get to the puck at first and get it out. And we try that cycle again. It's early for the Edmonton Oilers power play, as obviously, again, you're not going to score on every power play ever, but the Edmonton Oilers need a better effort out of their power play unit in general coming up against some, again, very formidable teams here. They did decent. I mean, got a couple of goals against one of the best defensively constructed teams in the Carolina Hurricanes, but they got to keep it going. Just something to now. Yes, you got a couple of goals. You saw that you can score. Now let's dominate. That's the next step for the Edmonton Oilers. Speaking of the next step for the Edmonton Oilers, they play the St. Louis Blues on Saturday at 2 o'clock. The good and the bad and the ugly from that game will not be on an episode coming up, because that is a weekend episode. But there is a good, the bad, and the ugly from last night's game against the Carolina Hurricanes. We will get into that in just a second. But first, I want to thank you for making your first listen Locked On Oilers today. Now for your second listen, make sure you tune in to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you find your podcasts. Alrighty, as I reach over for my notes for the third and final period of today's episode, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the game against the Carolina Hurricanes, the fourth game of the season for the Edmonton Oilers. Let's start off with the good, as that would be Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, as he gets 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. 3 of those points, in fact, all 3 of those assists, coming on the special teams. 2 power play assists, 1 shorthanded assist on Ryan McLeod's second of the season. Now, the interesting thing is, the first assist of the game for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the first goal of the game was a power play marker, which we didn't even mention in the power play portion of today's episode. The Edmonton Oilers scored a power play goal without Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl being involved. Yeah, a little weird, isn't it? That goal came from Zach Hyman, assisted by Tyson Barrie and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the power play. I don't know the last time that's ever happened, but one in feels like a million chance. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, a good portion for the Edmonton Oilers last night. The bad from last night is interpretation of the word, and that is Andrei Svechnikov. He is a bad man. I think a lot of people tend to forget about Andrei Svechnikov, as a lot of people tend to forget about Sebastian Aho too. The Carolina Hurricanes are a very underrated team with a lot of very underrated players. Brett Pesce, Brady Shea, I'm forgetting Jakub Slavin as well. A lot of very underrated players, and Andrei Svechnikov came out last night and proved why they shouldn't be underrated. A hat trick, his first career hat trick for him, 2 just absolute snipes. His release was fantastic, to the point where a lot of people don't blame Jack Campbell on those 2 goals that he was beaten on. Great shots by Svechnikov there, really showing his skill. A power play goal for him as well in the game. 6 goals in 4 games so far this season for Andrei Svechnikov. Once again, off to a hot start for him. If you aren't already keeping tabs on Andrei Svechnikov, you have to. He is just a beautiful, fantastic hockey player. and the ugly from the game last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. I may have called them the Panthers at one point in the game today. Pulling, what was that? That was I believe the Toronto bubble when they called the Carolina Panthers the Carolina Hurricanes. That's pretty impressive. But either way, the ugly from last night is the special teams. 10 power plays for both teams. 2 for 5 for both of them on the power play. 5 power plays in total for each side, or 5 power plays each, 4 power play goals, 1 shorthanded goal. Half of the goals scored in last night's game were scored on the special teams with some sort of advantage happening in that game. I only say ugly because sometimes you just want a good old 5-on-5 game. I say ugly again because half of the goals were scored with some sort of manpower. But either way, the good from last night, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. The bad from last night is the bad man, Andrei Svechnikov. Respect to him for a big night last night. And the ugly, the special teams. The Edmonton Oilers are back at it in action on Saturday, as it is Friday, so we won't have anything immediately after that game, but we will have a full recap of that game on Monday, because it is the weekend. It's Friday, baby. It's Friday then. It's Saturday, Sunday. What? Yes, it is Friday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Once again, the Edmonton Oilers take it last night against the Carolina Hurricanes, 6-4, back in action on Saturday, 2 p.m. at Rogers Place against the St. Louis Blues. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Stay safe. And once again, play La Bamba, baby.